Why modern media makes you miserable. In today's age, we find ourselves surrounded by a sea of information, constantly inundated with updates, stories, images, and opinions. Technology, which promised to bring us closer together, has become the very thing that keeps us apart, stripping us of our peace of mind. We live in an age where, ironically, the more connected we are, the more disconnected we feel. We call it being connected, but what does that truly mean? Is it truly connection when we spend hours scrolling through the lives of others, wondering why our own lives don't seem vibrant, successful, or fulfilling? We watch the curated moments of people's highlight reels, seeing only the best of what they want us to see, but not the moments of struggle, doubt, or imperfection. And yet, despite knowing this on an intellectual level, we still compare ourselves to the fleeting snapshots of what others portray as perfection. This constant comparison breeds dissatisfaction, doubt, and a quiet despair that no amount of likes or followers can truly alleviate. We are caught in an endless loop of external validation. The more we turn to the outside world to measure our worth, the further we drift from our true selves. This is the very essence of how modern media makes us miserable. It disconnects us from what is real. We lose touch with our inner peace, and instead, we're conditioned to measure our happiness by external standards that do not align with our values, desires, or even our realities. And then there is the media itself. Every day we're fed headlines that trigger fear, uncertainty, and anxiety. We are led to believe that the world is in constant crisis. Wars, pandemics, economic collapse presented in an endless stream of negative, often exaggerated news. The stories don't empower us or offer solutions. They only amplify the chaos. We are not being informed. We are being conditioned to fear and to believe that we have no control over the world around us. The pursuit of knowledge becomes nothing more than a parade of catastrophe, and it wears down our spirit, leaving us paralyzed and exhausted. Why is it that we keep coming back for more? The answer lies in the very design of modern media. It is engineered to capture our attention, to keep us distracted, and to fill the empty spaces in our minds. Notifications, updates, and endless streams of new content flood our awareness, preventing us from focusing on what truly matters. We check our phones not because we want to, but because we are drawn into an addictive cycle of instant gratification. We chase the next piece of information, the next story, the next thing that will give us a fleeting moment of dopamine, but all this does is pull us further away from the present moment, the only moment that holds true meaning and power. This constant distraction erodes our ability to live consciously, to sit with ourselves in stillness, and to reflect. It's as if we've forgotten the simple joy of being present in our own lives. We allow our focus to be pulled in 1,000 different directions, all dictated by the whims of technology and media. And perhaps the most insidious consequence of modern media is the subtle loss of autonomy. Our thoughts, our desires, and even our beliefs are being shaped by algorithms designed to keep us engaged, not necessarily informed. We are being told what to think, how to feel, and even who to trust. Media has become a powerful force that shapes the lens through which we view the world, often without us even realizing it. We no longer think for ourselves, but merely adopt the opinions and views that are presented to us, often as the only truth. In the end, modern media doesn't provide the connection, clarity, or satisfaction that it promises. Instead, it leads us down a path of comparison, distraction, and anxiety. The more we immerse ourselves in this world of endless information, the more we lose touch with the peace and wisdom that resides within us. So, what can we do to free ourselves from this trap? The first step is to become aware. Acknowledge the role that media plays in shaping your thoughts and emotions, question its influence, and seek balance. Spend more time focusing on the present moment, on real-world connections, and on developing your own independent thoughts. The world around us is a vast, chaotic place, but true peace is found within. When we stop allowing external forces to dictate our inner lives, we begin to reclaim our autonomy, our peace, and our happiness. The world outside may always be noisy, but we have the power to choose whether or not we let it dictate our inner state. Let us choose to live intentionally, to seek truth within, and to remember that peace and happiness do not come from external validation, but from the quiet wisdom within ourselves. In today's world, we are more connected than ever before. Social media platforms, messaging apps, and instant news updates keep us in constant touch with the world around us. The promise of technology was to bring people closer, to reduce the gaps between individuals separated by geography, culture, or time. And in many ways it has. We can communicate instantly with anyone, anywhere in the world, and the flow of information is constant and seamless. But despite all of this connectivity, many of us feel more disconnected than ever. This is the paradox of our modern era. The more connected we are through technology, the more isolated we feel. When we scroll through our feeds, we see the lives of others on display, perfectly curated snapshots of happiness, success, and adventure. These moments seem so real, so vivid, and yet they are often far from the complete picture. We rarely see the struggles, the mundane routines, or the imperfections of those whose lives we admire from a distance. These selective portrayals create an illusion of perfection, one that we subconsciously compare ourselves to. In our minds, others' lives seem fuller, more exciting, or more accomplished than our own. The result? We start to feel inadequate, disconnected, and sometimes even invisible. Despite the fact that we are constantly engaging with people through our screens, truth is that these interactions often lack the depth, empathy, and emotional connection that we experience in face-to-face encounters. Words and images on a screen, no matter how many likes they get, can never fully replace the warmth of a genuine conversation or the feeling of truly being heard and understood. In this constant flow of digital interactions, we find ourselves yearning for something more real, more substantial. Rather than fostering connection, modern media often amplifies our sense of disconnection. We scroll through social media, yet feel lonelier than before. We text our friends, but miss the depth of a shared moment. We are connected, but at the same time, we feel a quiet, lingering emptiness that no number of notifications or new followers can fill. The promise of connectivity has been replaced with a feeling of isolation in the midst of constant interaction. The more we try to engage, the more we feel left out of something deeper, something more meaningful. This disconnect is not just emotional, it can also be psychological. The constant bombardment of information, opinions, and images pulls us away from our own thoughts, making it harder to find a true sense of self. We become so focused on the outer world, what others are doing, what the news is reporting, what the trends are, that we lose touch with our own inner voice, our true desires, and our real emotions. Instead of creating real connections, technology often reinforces a false sense of interaction, leaving us feeling misunderstood, disconnected, and ultimately alone. So, while modern media claims to bring us together, it often pulls us further apart, creating an illusion of connection while deepening our sense of disconnection from ourselves and others. In the digital age, social media has become a platform for constant comparison. We scroll through endless feeds filled with images of success, beauty, wealth, and happiness. But what we often forget is that these portrayals are not the whole story. They are carefully curated versions of life, showing only the highlights, the moments that are meant to impress. People choose to share their most glamorous photos, their achievements, their best experiences. What we see is a filtered version of reality, and yet our minds process it as the full truth. We end up comparing ourselves to something that isn't even real. This comparison trap is one of the most destructive aspects of modern media. We start to measure our worth by how we stack up against others' polished lives. If we don't have the same level of success, the same body, or the same lifestyle, we can feel inferior. We begin to believe that we are somehow lacking because our reality doesn't look like what's being presented online. This comparison is not only superficial, it runs deep into our sense of self-esteem, confidence, and happiness. Instead of celebrating our unique journey, we fall into the trap of believing that we should be living someone else's life. The more we expose ourselves to this constant stream of comparisons, the more we begin to internalize the idea that we are not enough as we are. We start to feel that we are missing something, a better job, a better relationship, a better body, that will finally make us happy. The worst part is that this kind of comparison rarely leads to any positive action. Rather than inspiring us to improve ourselves, it breeds dissatisfaction and self-criticism. It erodes our sense of worth because it builds on the false belief that we need to measure up to an ideal that doesn't even exist. Additionally, the comparison created by modern media isn't limited to just physical appearance or material success. It also extends to lifestyle choices, relationships, and even our mental health. We see others vacationing in exotic places, living in perfect homes, or sharing stories of their seemingly perfect relationships. But the truth is, everyone has their own struggles. What we don't see are the long hours behind the successes, the loneliness behind the beautiful photos, or the arguments behind the perfect couple posts. Yet, we look at these snippets and believe that everyone else is living a better, happier, more fulfilled life, which causes us to question our own. This cycle of comparison can be relentless. The more time we spend on social media, the more we expose ourselves to these curated realities. And the longer we stay trapped in this cycle, the harder it becomes to break free. The result is that we are left feeling unworthy, unsatisfied, and disconnected from who we truly are. Instead of looking inward and celebrating our own growth and achievements, we are constantly distracted by the lives of others, and in doing so, we rob ourselves of the ability to appreciate the beauty and value of our own unique journey. In today's world, we are bombarded with news from every direction. Our phones, televisions, and computers are constantly feeding us updates on the latest crises, disasters, and conflicts happening around the globe. News outlets, driven by a need to capture attention, often sensationalize these events to keep us hooked. Stories of war, economic collapse, natural disasters, and political turmoil dominate our feeds, creating a constant atmosphere of anxiety and fear. But this flood of negative news does not provide us with clarity or insight. Rather, it erodes our mental and emotional well-being. What makes this even more damaging is that many of us have become desensitized to the constant barrage of chaotic headlines. We scroll through the latest breaking news not with a sense of empowerment or curiosity, but with a vague feeling of helplessness. We read about the world's problems and feel a sense of urgency, but often we don't know what we can do to help or even how to process the overwhelming information. Instead of feeling informed, we feel powerless, trapped in a cycle of fear that is perpetuated by a media system that thrives on conflict and division. This constant exposure to chaos and negativity takes a heavy toll on our emotional health. The more we consume, the more anxious we become, as if we are living in a perpetual state of emergency. The news begins to shape our world. We start to see the world as a place of danger, disaster, and despair. Rather than focusing on solutions or the positive things happening around us, our minds are consumed with fear about things that may never directly affect us. This perpetual state of stress diminishes our ability to enjoy the present moment and to appreciate the good things in our lives. Furthermore, the way news is presented often strips us of our agency. Rather than offering meaningful insights or solutions, the media simply feeds us problems. We are told about crises without being given the tools to understand or address them. We are made to feel like passive observers, watching the world burn without any real ability to change the course of events. The media becomes an endless loop of despair, reinforcing the belief that the world is beyond repair and that we, as individuals, are helpless in the face of it all. This emotional toll isn't limited to our views on global issues. It also seeps into our personal lives. As we consume news, we internalize the belief that the world is chaotic, unpredictable, and dangerous, which then colors how we perceive our day-to-day lives. The result is that we live with a constant background hum of anxiety, not just about the state of the world, but about our own place in it. The peace of mind we once had is gradually replaced by a low-grade, ongoing stress that we hardly even notice until it begins to affect our physical health, relationships, and overall well-being. What modern media fails to do is present the world in a balanced light, offering not only the negative but also the positive, the hopeful, and the constructive. It fails to show the resilience of the human spirit, the everyday acts of kindness, the innovative solutions being implemented, and the progress being made. Without this balance, we are left with an incomplete and distorted view of reality, one that breeds fear and disillusionment instead of peace and action. In the age of constant notifications, alerts, and digital updates, modern media has mastered the art of distraction. Our devices are designed to keep us hooked, continuously pulling our attention away from the present moment. Every time our phone buzzes, every notification that pops up, and every new alert that flashes on the screen compels us to check, even when we know it's probably something trivial. This is no accident. Media platforms, apps, and websites are engineered to keep us engaged, to keep us coming back for more, and to keep us from ever being truly present. The average person spends hours each day glued to their screens, responding to messages, liking posts, watching videos, or scrolling through news feeds. What many don't realize is that this endless cycle of digital engagement has become an addiction, driven by the same mechanisms that keep gamblers at the table or shoppers at the mall. The constant influx of new content, the quest for new likes and comments, and the anticipation of the next interesting post all trigger dopamine in our brains, making us crave more. This cycle becomes harder and harder to break as we continually seek that next hit of instant gratification. The problem with this constant distraction is that it prevents us from engaging with what truly matters in our lives. Instead of being present with our thoughts, our emotions, or our relationships, we are constantly pulled away to chase after something external, something fleeting. We miss the simple beauty of sitting quietly with ourselves, the joy of real face-to-face interactions, or the satisfaction that comes from deep, focused work. Our attention is fragmented, and as a result, our capacity for deep connection, meaningful thought, and genuine creativity diminishes. Even when we try to focus on something important, like reading a book or having a meaningful conversation, we often find ourselves distracted by the lure of our phones. It's as if the digital world has created a constant hum in the background, making it nearly impossible to truly disconnect and be present in our lives. The more we engage with these distractions, the more our ability to be present and mindful is eroded. This addiction to distraction also has long-term consequences. It affects our mental health, our relationships, and even our productivity. Studies have shown that constant multitasking and digital distractions reduce our cognitive ability, making it harder to focus, think critically, and engage in creative problem solving. In relationships, the constant checking of phones or the impulse to scroll during conversations sends a message that we are not truly present with those around us, diminishing the quality of our connections and leading to feelings of loneliness and disconnection. Moreover, the pull of distraction doesn't just affect our productivity, it also distorts our perceptions. When we are constantly plugged into media, we start to measure our lives against what we see online. We get caught up in the constant flow of content, feeling as though we need to keep up, to stay relevant, or to constantly have something new to share. This constant need to consume and create content pulls us away from the deeper, more meaningful aspects of life, leaving us feeling exhausted and unfulfilled. In the end, modern media's addictive nature isn't just a simple issue of too much screen time. It's a profound shift in how we engage with the world. It steals our attention, our time, and our peace, all while promising connection and entertainment. But in the end, it leaves us feeling more disconnected than ever. As we immerse ourselves in the digital world, it becomes increasingly evident that modern media doesn't just shape our opinions. It often dictates them. The algorithms that power social media, news outlets, and streaming platforms are designed to create personalized experiences, tailoring the content we see to our past behavior and preferences. On the surface, this might seem like a helpful service, providing us with content we are likely to enjoy. However, the deeper impact is far more profound. Over time, these algorithms subtly influence our beliefs, perceptions, and even our emotional responses, often without us even realizing it. When we engage with media, the narratives we consume often align with our existing viewpoints. This phenomenon, known as the filter bubble, reinforces the beliefs we already hold, leaving little room for diverse perspectives or critical examination. We find ourselves trapped in echo chambers where the content we are exposed to mirrors our own opinions and biases. The more we click, like, or share, the more we are shown content that confirms our worldview, making it harder to encounter differing viewpoints. While this can feel comfortable, it also limits our ability to think critically or to engage with new ideas. This curated reality is further compounded by the sensationalist nature of modern media. Stories that evoke strong emotional reactions, whether through fear, anger, or outrage, are more likely to be shared and promoted. As a result, we are often exposed to content designed to trigger our emotions, particularly negative ones, as these are the most effective at capturing attention. The constant bombardment of emotionally charged content can make us feel as though we are living in a world full of division, conflict, and crisis, regardless of the actual state of affairs. Over time, this can distort our view of reality, making us believe that the world is far worse off than it really is. As media outlets and platforms prioritize engagement over truth, we begin to lose our ability to independently assess information. Instead of seeking out balanced, well-researched perspectives, we gravitate toward content that reinforces what we already believe or feel. We start adopting opinions not based on our own thoughtful analysis, but on the influence of external forces. In essence, we stop thinking for ourselves, allowing the media to do the thinking for us. This not only limits our intellectual autonomy, but also weakens our capacity for independent judgment. Moreover, the constant exposure to media-driven narratives can erode our sense of personal agency. Instead of feeling empowered to shape our own beliefs and make informed decisions, we begin to feel as though our opinions are simply reflections of the content we consume. We adopt narratives provided by others, feeling less in control of our own thoughts and beliefs. The more we let the media dictate our perceptions, the more we lose our ability to engage with the world as independent, free-thinking individuals. Ultimately, this loss of autonomy is one of the most insidious effects of modern media. It gradually erodes our ability to form original thoughts, engage with differing viewpoints, and make independent decisions. As we become more entrenched in media-driven narratives, we lose sight of our true selves and begin to define our lives based on the constant flow of external influences. The more we allow these external forces to shape our beliefs, the further we drift from our authentic selves, becoming mere products of the media we consume. In conclusion, while modern media promises to connect us, inform us, and entertain us, it often leads us down a path of disconnection, dissatisfaction, and confusion. We live in an age where we are more connected than ever, yet the digital world has created an illusion of closeness that leaves many feeling more isolated than before. The constant comparison, fueled by idealized portrayals of others' lives, undermines our self-worth and creates an endless cycle of dissatisfaction. Instead of nurturing authentic connections, modern media amplifies feelings of loneliness, as we seek validation through fleeting digital interactions rather than meaningful relationships. Moreover, the constant exposure to negative, sensationalized news feeds our anxiety and fear, distorting our perception of reality and eroding our peace of mind. Rather than empowering us with knowledge, the news often traps us in a cycle of helplessness and despair, leaving us feeling disillusioned and disconnected from the world around us. In addition, the addictive nature of modern media keeps us distracted, pulling our attention away from what truly matters in life and preventing us from engaging in deep, meaningful moments of connection, creativity, and presence. We lose touch with ourselves as we are constantly chasing the next notification or update, rather than being grounded in the present moment. Lastly, the algorithms that shape the content we consume strip us of our autonomy, subtly molding our beliefs, opinions, and emotions without us realizing it. Rather than thinking critically and independently, we begin to adopt the perspectives and narratives that media platforms present to us, losing our ability to make informed, autonomous decisions. We are no longer the masters of our thoughts and perceptions, but passive recipients of external influences that shape our worldview. To reclaim our peace and our autonomy, it is essential that we become more mindful of the role media plays in our lives. We must recognize its power to shape our emotions, our perceptions, and our reality. By stepping back, critically evaluating the content we consume, and choosing to prioritize meaningful, real-world connections, we can begin to break free from the grip of modern media. It is through conscious engagement with the world around us, rather than passive consumption of external content, that we can rediscover our true selves and create a more fulfilling, grounded existence. The media may be a powerful force, but it does not have to control us. We can choose to live with intention, to cultivate authenticity, and to reclaim the peace and clarity that are rightfully ours.